Hello, everybody. Welcome to the We Are TechBritannia podcast. My name is Rose Ross. I'm co-founder and co-conspirator at TechBritannia, and I'll be interviewing, and I'm delighted to be joined by James Murphy, who's the director of TechVets. That's a non-profit that works with members of the forces and forces leavers who are looking to move into technology careers once they leave. Hi, James. Hi, how are you?
I'm fantastic, thank you. Thanks ever so much for having me on.
Welcome. So obviously I've talked a little bit about what TechVets is. Could you tell me, of the listeners who perhaps have not come across TechVets in the past, a little bit more about, who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a non-profit, as you mentioned. But everything we do is pretty much in a charitable way, and we're now thankfully a program within RFEA, the Forces Employment Charity, where we support people with lifelong support, and that's life-changing support as well for many. But jobs, training, opportunities to get into employment, and clearly TechVets is the program within RFEA that specifies within technology and cybersecurity and has that focus. But in essence, we provide that support for veterans, for service leavers, for full-time and reservist serving persons, and they can gain access to our fantastic community. They can learn and train using leading sort of training, cybersecurity and technology training resources, and receive valuable employment support.
Fantastic. So tell us a little bit about the past, because, I know one of the founders, Mike Butcher from TechCrunch, but there's Peter Connolly, Ewan Crawford and Mark Milton. And do you want to talk a little bit about how the whole idea of TechVets came about and, when it started and what it's been doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the four founders had a wonderful approach to setting up and establishing TechVets. And I think that's what really drew me in the first instance anyway. And that was a very principled way of running an organization. They've never taken a single penny. They've only ever provided their time and even out of pocket, but so passionate about solving two big problems that they could see that were existing, not just at the time, but increasingly as we move forward over the next decade. And that is, the cybersecurity skills gap, and technology skills gap, which isn't going away. We had DCMS provided a report which estimated 50% of businesses, 653,000 businesses, currently have a cyber skills gap. So considerable problem there that needs to be not necessarily solved, but certainly worked towards a solution. And on the other side of that problem coin are the huge numbers of the 14,000 a year that are leaving the military and going into roles that are already being redefined by automation, robotics, machine learning, AI, etc. And this is going to increase over the next 5 to 10 years. So that issue of that underemployment and unemployed veteran community, which is pretty excessive. And in the last data we saw was the MOD survey in 2017, which suggested just 4% of the 2.4 million veterans are in ICT. So a considerable problem. And then I suppose, when we look at the founders, it was such an incredible team to come together. When you look at the sort of the backgrounds that they have, we've got 50% of the board have been or are involved in the military. Peter was 12-year infantry officer. Ewan is a current Ewan Crawford, current reservist, and then we've got Mark Milton, a service design specialist, over 20 years, and then Mike Butcher, who's clearly made a big name in tech media, the editor-at-large of TechCrunch. So a great team, and luckily they've really built some great foundations for me to work with.
Fantastic. So, you talked about that principled approach to helping, and the ethos really behind TechVets. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you come to be involved with it? And then obviously step into the role that you have now as director.
Yeah, it's been a long journey, and I think what's really important is, like so many people, that are now moving into technical careers, career changes. I don't have a tech background. I joined the military back in 2000. I started as an infantry soldier, as a private soldier in the Royal Anglian, 1st Battalion Royal Anglian Regiment. Mm-hmm. And my first tour to Afghanistan, Helmand Province, didn't last very long. I was a section commander, and 6 weeks in, and managed to two-footed tackle a rocket-propelled grenade, which I made up a wonderful story. In the mess one day that allegedly it was to get back on R&R early, and still to this day I don't confirm or deny it. But a wonderful opportunity, because although it sounds quite dark and nasty, it forced me to rethink my career. I moved into intelligence, and when I got into intelligence, I did sort of 2 years, and before then coming up with a 5-year exit strategy, and that plan was executed fairly well. I managed to get loads of courses under my belt, and I got a first class in my honours degree in international relations. Some great roles managing intelligence requirements globally, and deployed to Beijing in the embassy for 6 months. So really good. But I was ready to leave, and at the 19-year point, that was me, done and dusted. But I had a real issue with understanding where I would fit, where my skills would really have an impact. And that TechVets, I was my first ever CEO when I first joined the Vikings, all those years ago. Him and I had a cup of tea, and he said, "Look, speak to Pete Connolly," and Pete showed me how to sign up, and I used the network, I used the training, and managed to land a role in government digital service as the head of cyber threat intelligence, which was great. And then from that point on, I wanted to give back, so I started volunteering to support the founders, both in the community, supporting the online community, and as well as attending and representing TechVets at a number of different events. And then finally the dream job. It was Mark Milton that got in touch and said, "Look, we're going to have our first CEO. You've worked hard as volunteering. You should have a look." And thankfully, I think it was roughly around 5 p.m. in the evening, 5:30 in the evening. I got the call from Ewan a number of months later to say that I had it. And wow, what an opportunity! And it's been very action-packed ever since.
Indeed. Well, quite an adventure and quite a journey. So, you're one of the best showcases, really, because it's helped you, and you now have your dream job. It certainly isn't the dream job you would have ever thought at the time that you would be doing, but it's definitely in technology and making a huge difference to others who have, been faced with similar crossroads as they go through their careers. You talked about a huge number of people who are leaving the forces, and only a very small proportion of them who are actually going into technology roles, which is obviously a big undertapped resource. And, there could be opportunities for a lot of people there. I mean, that number kind of indicates to me that they're probably people who may already have had a career, say, been in the signals or have had some kind of role which was technical, whether that's a radio operator or involved in other aspects of it. So, what aspirations would you have to kind of increase that number, kind of get a bit more of the ex-forces involved in the technology?
I think one of the biggest challenges is that people associate a role in cyber or technology as being beyond their reach, because the perception is you need to have been coding for sort of 20 years and see the films, read the stories, etc. But there are so many different routes into cyber. There are so many different opportunities across technology, and there are loaded roles that we would refer to as non-technical as well, which people can move into. Technical project management, where fine, you may need to have a fundamental understanding of the basics, but that's it. But the rewards that you get from that career is pretty fantastic. I think what we're trying to do is to show people that it isn't just for the Royal Signals or those technical people coming out of radar backgrounds in the Navy, for example. We're seeing just the other day we had a young chap who in our celebrations channel mentioned that he'd handed in his truck keys to start week 2 as a cybersecurity consultant. And previously to that, we had one of our very active members, Jason, and he's if you look on our news on our website, you'll see that his story's on there. infantry to cybersecurity. So anyone can do it. You have to have a passion for it. And what we want to do, we're doing some incredible work with Christy through PR and Meredith, who runs our digital marketing stuff, to widen the veteran community outreach that we currently have.
Fantastic. So one of the reasons we're talking now is that it's just coming up to Armed Forces Day, which is celebrated every year on the 26th of June, or the Saturday around the 26th of June. As an ex-serviceman and, as somebody who represents and works with both serving and those who have left, either just about to leave or have left for a while, what we are seeing is obviously there's a skills gap in technology. There is a huge workforce who are being effectively, please excuse the pun, but being redeployed out of the forces into Civvy Street. And you are helping to kind of marry those two up. At the same time, the forces itself is focusing more on technology. There's been huge investment in cyber warfare, AI projects, just overall, billions that will be going into that and dedicated forces in that. So the military itself is actually becoming more technology focused. So, do you see this as an opportunity? And are you working with those who are, wanting to stay in forces, but perhaps change their career in that way and move into?
Absolutely. I think one thing that's really important to note about TechVets is, we don't monetize the community. And because of that, we're very impartial and unbiased, and we do whatever's best for that community. And actually, there is a real benefit in staying in the military, especially at this time. We're going to see some potentially, quite horrible impacts with inflation from the back end of the pandemic, and the job security that you get in the military is pretty fantastic. Again, as you mentioned, increasing numbers of technologies being integrated within the sort of operational delivery, but also increasing capabilities being created within cybersecurity, as well as wider technology. And that's only going to increase. I think the MOD are doing some really great work in that regard. And Defence Digital also helping to digitize that across MOD. So awesome opportunities. And I think one thing that we're really proud of is that we like to support retention where we can. And that is making sure that people understand the real truth when they leave the military about what it really means to go into cybersecurity. That you can't just take a 5-day course, jump all the, hurdle everything and go straight to be a cyber specialist. That the average salaries that people, the training, some of the training vendors are pushing out, 70K a year is not accurate for someone trying to break into industry. And we want to make sure people are making the right decisions. Where we can, we want to also highlight the fantastic opportunities available inside the MOD, including things like their programming coding initiative, where you get paid a bonus when you finish that training. It's a real fantastic opportunity. But I do think more needs to be done. Raising awareness is one aspect of it, to make sure that everyone appreciates, one, the benefits of learning these sorts of skills, but two, making sure they know where to go to find these sorts of resources and support.
Yeah, absolutely. So as the military, is looking obviously to hopefully fill a lot of those roles internally, and I know that the new cyber force has brought, from the tri-service, pool of talent, it has been filled in that way. But one of the aspects which I think we touched upon before was, it's very interesting that the recruitment policy for the military actually precludes people who are seen to be on the spectrum, who have such as Asperger's, when we know that these types of people, this is a bit like a superpower. It actually, they have a lot of them have a great talent for technology and the likes of cybersecurity. And it does feel a little bit counterintuitive, I would say, is that the military is saying it wants to do more in this space, but it's actually, sidelining a whole pool of talent who may well be, very beneficial to include in that move.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really interesting point, and a very important one as well. I think that one thing that I always try to highlight to people, which I didn't have the benefit whilst I was serving, was only when I left that I looked back, I suppose, more objectively at the MOD as an entity. And I could see that it was a very, very complex beast. It's a huge institution with so many diverse capabilities that they're delivering, complex capabilities as well at times, with increased sensitivity also brings sometimes a more challenging capability delivery. So I think they're doing some great stuff, and the D&I aspect seems to be really positive. They've always tried to be as diverse as possible, but in a modern world, there is less of a requirement now for every person who's serving to be able to manage weapon systems and carry heavy loads on their back and hump it out across hostile environments. In fact, the battlegrounds are becoming increasingly virtual and geographically dispersed. So I think it's a great opportunity now for the military to really take the lead as far as modern militaries go, to show how to harness the capabilities within the diverse population of the UK and to really bring that to the fore. Because, as you say, there is already fantastic talent there. The other issue that we have is whatever programs MOD have internally within their own current personnel, but also programs that are running externally, women in tech and school projects and stuff like that. It's going to take 5-10 years at least for us to see the results of those. So in the meantime, within that next decade, where do we find this talent? And it's already there. It's just about making sure that we have the right approach, the right systems, the right policies and processes to make sure that they're brought in and can have a fantastic career in the military, regardless of what their background is.
Yeah, and then talk to TechVets when they want to move forward into a civilian role.
Yeah, absolutely.
You obviously work across a lot of conversations. You've got a lot of volunteers. How can people get involved? If they are in tech, perhaps they've served in the military previously, or they would just like to find out more about how they engage. Sharing the experiences about the career, generally speaking, and how to move things forward, the options that are there. How do people get involved? How can
it's really easy. Go to the website, techvets.co. It is just .co, not .co.uk or .com. I have to say that most times, otherwise people always come back to me and say
you have one less dot.
But go there, sign up. Again, as I say, everything we do is free. Once you sign up, if you want to leave, you can leave. There's no hooks or anything, so there's no risk. And it's better to join TechVets, to get access to that community, to ask those questions, and to understand that it's not for you is sometimes just as important as understanding what's the right pathway into tech. Sometimes it's just as beneficial to know that you're not going to waste 9 months going down a route trying to get into cyber or tech when it isn't for you. So it's really important to have those conversations. You can find me on LinkedIn, and anyone is welcome, especially with a military background, to connect with me. Make sure you pop it in a message though, as well as to why, so I know who you are. But have a chat. There's plenty of people out there that are associated with TechVets, 20 plus volunteers doing fantastic work with us already. If you want to volunteer, just get in touch with me and we'll have that conversation and start that process. I'm always looking for people to provide support to our community. It may be that you're a company and you want to employ more people. Again, get in touch with me on LinkedIn is perfect, and we can start those conversations. There's no recruitment fees whatsoever when you employ someone from TechVets. We're not a recruitment agency. So again, you've got potentially free access to an awesome talent pool. And then, again, if you want to provide education or training support, get in touch. We can have those conversations. It maybe you want to, run a webinar session, run a work, support CVs, creation, CV creation or whatever it may be, review CVs, etc. So plenty of opportunities. Just get in touch. And if you want to get into cyber or tech, again, join up, come and have a look. It's really free and easy and awesome.
Fantastic. And, we talked about Armed Forces Day. What's it going to mean for you as, we move forward into that sort of time of the year when everybody reflects and focuses, or a lot of people do. There's lots of events around the country. what are you going to be thinking about? What are you going to be doing?
I think one of the reasons why I wanted TechVets to join with RFEA was its focus on the people. And I think Armed Forces Day has to be about the people. Now, RFEA exists specifically to provide that lifelong support, life-changing support, etc., to those individuals, irrespective of their circumstances, rank, length of service, or reasons for leaving the military. And I think one thing about Armed Forces Day, sometimes there's a focus on the armed forces rather than the people within it. And these individuals, again, maybe not everyone, we don't all have to be heroes, but all of them are really committed to being part of something to help people. And whether that's, help them with safety and security, but all the way through to more recent stuff. We've seen with the pandemic, as was witnessed with the floods, that when there is a national crisis, the armed forces are always ready to be called upon to provide that service to our communities across the union. I think that's really important to understand, because, the guys and girls that are serving are always they love being part of something bigger where they are helping people. And that's even been evident across the globe, where, we've had some real fantastic success supporting communities around the globe with humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. Again, really, really important. So always committed to helping others. And I think, as well as that, I think it's a time to acknowledge the skills and experience that veterans bring, to break down some of the stigma and misconceptions that some still face. Now, there's been an amazing positive change in the approach companies have made and having throughout the UK, that they're taking on more and more veterans into their teams. But some still have the perception that we are all broken, and there's still more work that needs to be done on that.
Yeah. Well, they do say that the British military is one of the best places for leadership training, for example, and the amount of training that is provided is exceptional, and particularly for people who want to get trained, it's often just an ask away. Have you got plans for the day?
I'll probably be backlogged with stuff, I imagine. I know that we'll be releasing a Armed Forces Day podcast, which would be pretty cool. I was joined by four of my volunteers, and we were basically discussing our routes into cyber and tech and the challenges we faced, and life after the military and stuff like that. So, hopefully that will go live and we can share that experience with everyone out there. But yeah, just continuing to maximize on that time to really showcase the skills and experience of the members that we've had, because some of them are absolutely phenomenal. Breaking down huge barriers, gaining awesome opportunities, out of almost nothing, and spending a year of pure dedication and hard work. So I think, it will be all about pushing our community forward into the limelight where possible.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us, James. Really great work that you and the team are doing, and thanks for taking the time to speak with us and share with the We Are TechBritannia listeners what you're doing. And obviously, please keep us posted on what you're doing. And yes, you will be in our minds on Saturday, the 26th of June. And thank you, everybody, for listening in or viewing our podcast / video interview with James Murphy, who's director of TechVets. I'm Rose Ross, co-founder and co-conspirator at TechBritannia. You can follow us at TechBritannia on Twitter and find us on LinkedIn. And we are techbritannia.co.uk. Thanks again, James.
Take care.
Bye-bye now.